Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today, we're joined by Scott Broadbent from Acquire Tax Credits to break down the latest updates on tax credits, the budget bill, and what the return of full expensing means for your practice. Plus, we'll dive into how proper tax substantiation can keep you compliant and explore SCUBA, a tool for managing inflation and creating a win-win for your business. If you want to keep more money in your practice while staying ahead of tax changes, this episode's for you. Let's get started. This episode was brought to you by ADEC. Hey docs, on this podcast, I talk about a lot of different ways you can set your practice apart. But here's one that might surprise you. Maybe you haven't thought about it before, but the equipment you use can make a big difference, not just for the patient experience, but for you and your team too. That's why I want to let you know about a new line of orthodontic equipment from ADEC. I visited their headquarters in Oregon earlier this year to take a sneak peek for myself, and I have to say, I was impressed. ADEC has manufactured award-winning dental equipment for 60 plus years, and they're bringing that same level of excellence to ortho. From comfortable, compact patient chairs to a versatile workstation and delivery to ergonomic dental stools, ADEC orthodontic equipment is designed for a smooth and easy workflow. Day after day, patient after patient, see the difference it can make for your practice. Click the link in our show notes to learn more about ADEC Orthodontic Solutions. Scott, I am so excited to have you on Hey Docs today. Thanks for being here.
Hey, glad to be here, Jill. Excited to talk with you. What a great organization you have. You guys have an incredible group and following and people that, as you were telling me, in the orthodontic space and the dental space, all across Canada, Mexico, U.S. You guys are, I could say, infamous in some ways, right?
Yeah, we're doing okay. We're holding our own and standing in our own space for sure. The way I like to start off Hey Docs is I love for all of my guests, in the event that somebody does not know who you are or who has not heard of Acquire Tax Credits, I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about yourself, how you got into this space, and about the company a little bit.
Yeah, so I grew up in a little tiny town where there was more cows than people, northern Arizona. So I love that real homegrown feel. Tax credits came from doing business consulting and working as a financial planner and in finance. And we started working with so many dentists and doctors and orthodontists and pediodontists. And we started getting into, they were saying, hey, there's so many things we're not taking advantage of. And tax credits was one of those. We found there was only a handful of companies nationally that did it. And the one large CPA firm that does it here in the US, you have to switch your accounting. Nobody wants to leave their accountant. Yeah. So why would they do that? Even if they're a top 20 firm, why would you do that? Because they're more expensive. So we said, hey, we think we can fill in a needs gap that's there. Take like your orthodontist. Your orthodontist, they change up. Take the Damon bracket, and then it went to Damon the Ultima, right?
Yep.
That little modification is a great initiative, which we build a credit around, and which kind of becomes fun. So we took our background in working with CPAs and helping our people, consulting and doing all of those things, and said, hey, let's specialize in a few areas, and credits and SCUBA really came out of that. And we just have been having a lot of fun.
I love it. And that is exactly what I want to jump into and pull on your expertise here. And as I was talking to you before the show started, many of the docs that are in the audience for Hey Docs here are startups, doctors who've been in practice 8 years or less. And I think a lot of times when you think about tax credits and just what all that means, initially you're just like, I got to figure out how to file taxes. You know?
Right. I'm not doing research.
Yeah.
Or you go, I'm not developing some cancer thing or some pharmaceutical new thing. And you're like, how would I qualify? That's a really good question, Jill.
Yeah.
So for most people, they have to ask themselves this question. And let's play back and forth. You answer as if you're an orthodontist with me.
I'll try.
I may not come to you for my teeth, but I'll ask you the question. So Jill, in the last 3 to 5 years, have you added things to your practice? Have you modified your procedures or things like that you can say have improved your patient care over the last 3 to 5 years?
Yes, for sure.
So under section 41 of the IRS code, there's a 4-part test. And the first one is the permitted purpose, which is obviously for better patient care. And so you just answered that question. So if you're on this call and you're going, do I qualify? And you answered yes, that you have improved your patient care, then you are eligible for a tax credit. Now, underneath that credit, there's initiatives. So we look at, in your areas, what are you doing to eliminate uncertainty? What are you doing in your experimentation? Meaning you're taking a wire and bracket or an arch wire, or here, I'll give you one that's a fun one. We did this with a Texas orthodontist. We looked at 11 initiatives when she was changing her entire manufacturer that she was switching. Sure. So we looked at her bracket prescriptions on molar displacement. We looked at her arch wire shaping, the primers and sealants that they were using or decreasing. We looked at the bite block material. We looked at the adhesive combinations, and they were looking at a few different ones, the bonding resin. We were looking at which type of curing lamp they were using. They had just added cone beam. So if you're a new ortho on this space and hey, I just bought a cone beam and we're adding it into our process, perfect modification. And then there was a few other small things inside of there. But we looked at that with the orthodontist and we said, hey, what are you doing? And then they talked about what they had done before. And then as the year progressed, they told us, this is what happened. This was our patient outcomes. This was our treatments. And this was our protocols. And this is how it improved. And so what we did is we wrote your highlight reel. So Jill, would be like me coming into your practice and saying, I already know you're an incredible business consultant, but if you had anybody really jump up and down and shout to the wind how amazing you are, so we do that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And this kind of falls under research and development, right? This is what you're talking about, is us being able to find ways, and that's what you guys are doing, to find ways for doctors to have these tax credits, correct?
Yeah.
In their practices. And I think that is, especially for younger docs, it's hard to even think about, like you were just saying, I could have a tax
they're brand new out of school, or they're 5 years out. They just started their own practice. They're probably hitting that $1 million threshold and they're starting to build up, and they're going, how do I make a little more money? How do I get out of my student debt? How do I get all my stuff? Or if you're a little longer in that 7-8 years, maybe you've got that taken care of, and now you're trying to say, hey, how do I start getting, if I bought my building, how do I get it paid down? All these things. Imagine tax credits comes in, and let's give you just a real generic scenario. Yeah. So let's say you hit $1 million. Let's say you're in California, big state, lots of people there. You're probably going to get on the federal side $20,000 to $30,000, closer on the 30,000, and then California is going to come in right behind that and give you another 15 to 25. So you're all of a sudden you're looking at 35 to almost $60,000 a year. So you ask yourself, what would that do in my practice? Now, some of our larger orthodontic practices, once they get up around 2 million because they have high staff costs, we see that get up around 100,000 easy or more. Yeah, and people go, wait a minute. You always say, wait a minute, where's my cash? 100 grand for doing what I'm doing? Yep. The answer is, it's actually pretty simple. The PATH Act in 2015 broadened the scope of what could be done in qualifying for a tax credit. In fact, the CBO in I think it was around 2020 or 21, actually wrote a letter to small business owners. Not that anybody read it, but we did. And it said, hey, it's only being utilized about 12%. It was about a $58 to $60 billion credit, and only about 11 to 13 billion is being utilized. Please, if you're a small business owner, check with your accountant, check with your tax professional, and see if you qualify. So you're actually seeing the encouragement from the Fed saying, hey, you should look at this. We want this to build those people that are staying on the cutting edge or that are just bringing in new. Remember, it is the development. It's bringing in a new product, a new process, a software, a technique, a piece of equipment. If it's new to you, which if you're brand new or if you have 7 or 8 years, it's still new to you. Yeah. And you're always, and some of the old guys on here that I have been in practice 10, 15, I do the same thing. I would challenge you at that point. We come in and say, what are the small iterative modifications? What highlights how you just slightly improve? Is it staff training on a specific thing? We know that Damon or some of the big ones come out, Ormco come out and train you. What are they training you on? What are you, and then you're putting that in your practice. That seems so day to you that you just do it, right? And a lot of people go, that's what we do.
Yep.
And we get slightly better. I go to a conference. I might go attend a CE because I want to add something specific from somebody an influencer I really loved or something like that. Those are great examples of all qualifying events.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah.
And I think about it, a lot of docs out there listening and speaking to some of our established practices or whatnot. When we think about right now, digital workflow is such a big deal. And there is that change to, okay, I have to think about how I'm going to implement it. Then I have to start implementing it. Then I have to think about the technology that I'm going to use to move. And I think this is exactly what you're talking about, Scott, it's the things that we take for granted of just us progressing forward within our businesses. But the government is saying, hey, you're actually researching and developing a process that's making something better for your patients. And therefore, we're going to give you a boon here and give you a tax credit on that.
And think of it like the circle of life in a way, right? You have a practice that starts to do stuff. And then technology in the dental space is constantly developing, right? And so as a whole, we want that orthodontist or dentist or cosmetic, we want them to buy that new equipment. We want them to update. We want that patient. And so that cycle of doing that. And so everybody always tells me, yeah, but it's costly to do that. So if research and development comes in and gives you $50,000 to $100,000 a year to address that, now you have a budget for it too.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I tell people it's actually called research, but the actual code is research. Everybody says research and development. It's actually research and experimentation. Oh. How do you experiment in your practice? Oh. And what new things are you bringing in, or what old things are you modifying?
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that, Jill, and then would you agree that a lot of people just feel, especially if they're new or set 10 years and younger, you're still learning to be the business person, right? You're still paying off debt. You might have equipment. You might have the building. You have all those stressors. And so the one thing that is the most precious to you is time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so I had somebody ask me, he said, so I have to write that 100-page thing? And I said, absolutely not.
That's what we take care of for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'd love to switch gears just a little bit here. And I want to talk a little bit about the budget bill. And have you talk about, I know that just passed here in February last month, but can you talk about what that is, what that means to business owners, and especially for orthodontists, what we need to know about that and how it might affect our taxes moving forward?
Yeah, so the last year they talked about it in Congress that they were going to readdress R&D and make it a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And so when they did the budget reconciliation, and it's really the TCJA, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, that's being redone, and hopefully that'll win out for all the Americans with low taxes. But inside of their research and development has always been one they've been wanting to modify. And so they're actually doing they're modifying it back to full expensing. What that means is you get to expense the research related to it in the year, and you get the credit in the year. So you get to have both. People that have done real estate or improved their office, sometimes you have to amortize some of those things over time.
Yes.
In 2022, you had to amortize some of that. And so what we did is we looked at that and said, that's not that great. And the AI CPA says, guys, you got to change this back to full expensing, because that's how it was in 21. And so if you're sitting there on the call with us, so you say, okay, well, what does that look like? How does this impact me? If you're wanting us to do that, we look at 21, and I'll tell you why, but we also then look at 25 where the full expensing is coming back. And we're hoping they'll say full expensing for 22 to 24, but we'll find out. We'll know in the next couple of months, but we do know. So we start you in 21 because, one, you can recoup that money and be paid for that money. And it brings it forward. And on the tax form, the 6765 tax form, when you get to your fourth year, the IRS gives you the same amount of expenses, but they give you a higher credit.
Oh, interesting.
So a lot of times I go, hey, what if you're at, say, $70,000 in credits, and all of a sudden it turns into 84 in 25 because you've been doing it for those years? And people go, same expense, same staffing, same supply run, But different credit for me, absolutely. Sign me up for that all day long. So yeah, so the reconciliation budget set the stage to go back to fully expensing and possibly even address for 24. So if you're on the call right now, my advice to you would be to extend your taxes. Let this play out, because if they add in 24, Jill, could you imagine if everybody on this call had anywhere from 30 to 150 to $200,000 cut off their tax bill by this fall?
Yeah, it's huge. And really, truly, for my docs that are a little farther in, this can mean big things for you, for sure. Again, nobody wants to pay taxes. And if we can get those credits, why wouldn't
not,
we?
right?
We're always looking for that. Yeah, I think that is great. And is that something that you guys help with, or is it up to the doctor to have to figure that out? Like, explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. Our goal is that the doctor is going to be with us for only a couple of calls, so a few hours in the whole process. We have an entire writing team. We have an analyst team that's going to get all the data and compile it, and then we work directly with their CPA. Most of what happens on the background with how it comes through on their taxes, how it's done, the extensions, all that fun stuff, we take care of all that. So most of our docs just jump on and say, hey, let me tell you about my highlight reel. And then we go to start write that up, and then we get all the data and we capture it. And then we work with the CPA, and all they see for the most part is the reconciliation at the end and how much the refund is.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about what I can imagine to be, I don't know, a little bit of a challenge. And I think when you're thinking about taxes just in general, we have to have everything documented, and we have to have this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, on what doctors would need to be prepared, and what are things that could be red flags, just of that?
Yeah, I'll reference, we had a tax attorney that represents audit work nationally with research and development. We have actually two. And the gentleman out of Texas, we actually collaborated with him and wrote a white paper specifically to your CPA.
Oh.
And we said, hey, if we were going to tell the CPA about why they would do this, why they'd recommend it to the client, what are some good parameters?
Yes.
And he came up with a term, he called it great substantiation to make your R&D simple. And so we go through how us documenting everything and having it ready, and from how we do your time, which is unique, to how we do your general ledger to get all your supplies. And we put all that together, because you know what our tax attorney says, Jill? He goes, if I go in prepared and I have a well-formatted form, he goes, I have won 100% of the time.
I believe
Because
it.
the
Yeah.
IRS on R&D is looking for bad players.
Sure.
Yeah, people who did no background, no substantiation. They didn't take the time. We had one, you'll laugh at this. We don't do a lot of manufacturing, but we get a few referrals, and so we do a hair bit. But we went into one meeting, their CPA was there, their board was there, and we were sitting there, and I said, do you guys do R&D? And they go, yeah. I said, tell me about it. And he told me what they took, and I smiled. It was a good sized number. And I said, so what's your write-up? How did you address that in sending your executive summary to the IRS every time you file? He goes, excuse me, what? I go, it's a memorandum back from 2019. If you're not doing that, they'll disqualify you, because it's so that they can look at a quick 30-page, I know it says quick 30-page,
Yeah.
but quick 30-page summary of how you did it. And they go, no. And I go, so what's your write-up portion? What's your purpose? And how did you experiment? How did you address uncertainties? What was your kind of scientific methodology? He goes, we take the owner's manual and we throw it in file. And I said, excuse me, we take the owner's manual? I said,
Oh, geez.
so you just want to give it back. I get it. I said, you just want to give it back. We laughed. We had a good time about that. But it's really doing it right. We take a ton of extra time. We've had multiple tax attorneys across the U.S. for some of our multi-million-dollar studies that we do, that sometimes want to write a memo about that so that their client can say that they literally had it looked at by a third party. And we'll do that for you if you need it done. And what they come back and you know what they tell us, Jill? They say, yours is the biggest report that we see. It's the most thorough report that we see. And our tax attorneys say, hey, if I'm taking your report in, this is going to be very easy.
Yeah.
But guess what? In all the years we've been doing this, Jill, we've never had that happen.
Yeah.
We have had audits, but you have to remember the audit rate on R&D is lower than your S Corp audit rate.
Wow.
You have a better chance of getting hit by the lightning of just getting your corporation audited than you have of us being a part of that. We're not a trigger. We aren't targeted.
Yeah.
But if you do get randomly audited, they will usually ask for an information document request, and they'll say, hey, can you send us the proof and make it so that we know you actually did it.
Yeah.
And we've had great success in sending those in, and knock on wood, we have never had one not come back.
Yeah.
So,
and what I love to hear about this is, and I'm sure many of my doctors that are listening, we have seen it in many of the Facebook groups and the forums out there. And I definitely see the two sides. We've got the camp that's absolutely not, you can't do R&D.
Yeah.
And then you have the other side that's like, absolutely you can. And then you got the ones in the middle like, but I'd like to, but I don't want to get in trouble. And what I'm hearing from you, and I think that this is just encouraging, is you're going to go in smart. You're going to go in prepared, and you're going to take the time to do it right. And if you're doing it right, the likelihood that there's going to be an issue, like you've said, you've been audited, but it wasn't a big deal because you guys did it right and you were able to prove that the doc wasn't just, let's write off X amount and we'll just R&D
we'll call it good for whatever we feel like we should be getting. We did. Yeah. We had a CPA firm doing a medical group down in Arizona, just like that. And we said, send us your report. It was 4 pages long. Jill, we cried. You want to know when we finished how big the report was? 1,400.
Oh my goodness.
Because we did it right. But the guy comes back and he goes, I'm going to have you looked at by a tax attorney. He had a friend. And so we sent him all the stuff. He writes us back a letter and says, hey, I think you'll actually be just fine. And so far, knock on wood, we've been great. But you're right that those are key elements that people have to consider when they go through here. But another thing is we attend tax conferences from time to time in our space. The last one, BDO was there. They're the, I think, 3rd or 4th largest in the world. A name everybody knows if they're in the U.S. is Deloitte & Touche, and they do R&D. And I. Bailey, another large firm in the U.S. that dabbles in dentistry, that probably does a couple thousand a year or more, probably more. And when people say, a CPA says, I don't know, what we usually see, Jill, is they just are not informed. Or they've heard a horror story about somebody who did that whole manual thing, and it didn't work out for them. And if it's done incorrectly, I would agree it would be a tough finish. But done, no.
Yeah.
I think you're in a good place.
Well, and what I would love, if you wouldn't mind, is for the listeners, I know you said you've got some white pages on this. I would love it if you could send it, and then we could put that out into our show notes for our doctors and for their CPAs. Because I think that is another thing that we do struggle with sometimes is not, especially some of my younger docs, not everybody can start off with these bigger firms that may actually have a good understanding of R&D. And especially if we may be using a CPA that may not be as specialized within our industry or have a real understanding of this to a point. I think just knowing that if we can give them the guidance instead of just being like, hey, I was listening to this podcast and they said we should be writing off all these things I'm doing in my office, and the CPA is going, I don't know, I don't think that's a good idea. And then you're leaving all this potential money on the table versus if we've got some tools from you to help with, I think it's just, again, we can't expect that everybody knows everything, but if we can surround ourselves with smart people, smart companies, it can really help the docs, I believe, out there. And now a word from the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Hey, docs. If you want to have a great business, the right practice management software is essential. But some can be slow, outdated, and lacking good support. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to all orthodontists. It's the fastest, most reliable, and most secure platform to grow your business and improve your efficiency. It's completely web-based, so you can run your entire practice anywhere and from any device with no servers, no downloads, or hidden fees. They even have the most helpful and responsive support team around. Right now, Greyfinch is giving a $500 discount to our listeners. Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen to learn more and see why it's one of the fastest growing providers in America. Hey, docs. Let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at getsmilesuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence.
I think you bring up a really good point. When you're making a decision like, hey, I want to do this tax credit, how do I approach this? And how do I get that all put together correctly? Mm-hmm. We visit with you and talk through your initiatives to make sure you're going to have some qualifying. Then our very next call, guess as to who? Your CPA. We actually initiate that call. We talk with them. We walk through. We want to know if the CPA has no background in it or some background in it. And then we get to the end, we give them the tax forms, and then we talk specifically on the 3800. The 3800 is, to say tax forms are sometimes confusing is an understatement, right? It actually has 67, 65 up here, and then 40 slots down, it has it again. And if you don't fill it out as a small business owner, you will only get about 20% of the credit versus 100%. So we visit with our CPAs, and if they're new, we tag in, hey, you're new. Do you need help with the 3800? A lot of them say, yeah. And we have a team of analysts that have prepared taxes and have a background in that. And they just jump on a call. When they fill it out, they say, hey, make sure it's this and make sure it's this. And in 5 minutes, the CPA has done it. They look at the tax return and they go, oh, you're getting $35,000 back. Great. And that's your Fed. And then let's look at what you're getting at the state level. Because about 31 states across the U.S. are participating in research and development. So there's a good chance, if you're on this call listening, that you probably are in a state that does it. And they all do it a little bit different.
Sure.
But we customize it. We work with your CPA, make sure that they know how to do it. That's what makes us unique, is we actually, our first partner is your CPA. It's not you, and then we're going to say, aha, CPA, look what we did. No, we grab the CPA right from the beginning and say, hey, we're doing this. We talk to them about you extending your taxes for 24. We talk to them about 25. We address 21. We look at all the stuff that's relevant to you today, and then get your CPA on. I had a CPA call me. He goes, we only have 2 weeks. And I called him and he goes, I'm going to file an amendment and then we'll push this through and we'll get it all done. And he had a plan for his client because we informed him. Had we not, we would have finished our report and the CPA would have said, you missed your window.
Yeah. Yep.
And so by us grabbing the CPA in the very beginning, we make sure that we address the most important part, is that a credit gets turned into a refund for you.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So I'm going to switch gears again a little bit. And you used a word SCUBA. And earlier on, and I know that you were not talking about what we do in the ocean. So I am wondering if you can talk a little bit about SCUBA and what that means. And I know it has to do with inflation. And can you just talk about that a little bit and some other things that docs should be paying attention to here?
So SCUBA is very specific to the dental field. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you're a doctor, I love you, but this is really just a dental one. But for dentists and so orthos, endos, all those people in this field, what we did is, let's say you're a dentist and you did a crown for somebody, right? And then 3 weeks later, you happen to think caramel corn was a great idea, and it pulls that off. And you go in, you literally have the popcorn, you're like, I am so sorry. Here's my tooth. And they just put it back on. That peace of mind that the dentist is going to do that, we turn it into a formal program called SCUBA. We take and say, wait a minute, what if we enrolled all of your patients that walk through the door? They can opt out, but 40% nationally will enroll just because they want that peace of mind. Jill, in the world, $133 billion in 23 were spent on peace of mind products, right? You buy a vacuum, you want a warranty. You got an iPhone, you wanted a warranty. You got a Samsung or something like that, you wanted. If I drop this, if my dog grabs, I run it over, how many people break those every year, right? About close to 60% of those people enroll in that because they know that something's going to happen. How many funny videos have you seen online where somebody's doing something and the foam flies out and it's just done? It's over. But what about your dental side? Everybody, there's the stigma of being nervous going to the dentist. My daughter's in the middle of doing her orthodontic work, and she's learned to swallow a small Advil because she's, Dad, they're cranking these things in my mouth and my jaw's moving. It hurts like crazy for about 2 to 3 days, and then it kind of tapers down. So she goes, oh, Dad, I'm dying. So that's an expensive procedure. She's been doing that's a year and a half, right? So if you're an orthodontist, they're committing for quite a while with you. So SCUBA is designed to come in and say, hey, when they sign up, and let's go back to the crown concept. They're doing the crown. They're going to pay a little bit of money to have a 3 to 5 year, and the doctor, the dentist can pick the time frame. We give them failure rates and we give them lifetime rates nationally in studies so that they can make an educated guess in there. If they want, we'll give them some feedback. But it's about a patient care plan that they enroll in. And if they're using, say, Dentrix is a huge supplier, it formulates right into their Dentrix. It's their front office that does it. Because the dentist goes, would you agree that most dentists' time is absolutely their commodity they have none of?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And they usually make money on their time. So if you have to have them train or do anything in their office, the tears just come rolling down their face, right? They're like, no, please. So we designed the program with dentists. And we said, hey, what if we did it with just your front office? You'll never touch it. But imagine that it is somewhere between 3 to as much as, well, there's no limit on the upside, but 310. We have one that does full arch things in their mouth, and they'll make almost $2,000 a client, giving them that peace of mind. But so your orthodontist, there's a large component there for them. And we help them customize what does fit into the program, what does not. But you're literally looking to have a patient that wants to come back. The American Dental Association, Jill, did this interesting study in 2024. So just last year. Did you know what percentage of people go back to a dentist for a second visit after their first? It's surprising. And this was by the big guy in the room, right?
I'm going to say less than 50%. That's going to be
yes, 41%. People, I didn't know we didn't like the dentist that much.
Yeah.
So if you can get that patient to get sticky, so when they come in to do a filling for their child or themselves, and part of the program is encouraged that they do their 6-month cleanings, they're going to be back again and again. All of a sudden you have passive revenue from your hygienist. Great revenue lift, right? Already paying for that. This program, they pay for it right when they're getting the procedure done. The office tells them about it. Hey, you're getting let's just take a simple filling, right? They're probably paying $20 to $30 to get that filling done. So you look at an insurance payout, which is always less, but let's say it's $300 that you're charging for that filling. And the patient says, yeah, I'm willing to pay you $30 or so, $36. And you give me 3 years or 2 years. Everybody varies a little bit. Insurance in one of the states, I was just talking with a dentist before our call. He goes, 24 months, they'll do a filling. So I said, and so we actually set that gap. So if you get a filling, anything goes wrong in that 24 months, it's 100% covered. And so then the person says, then my insurance picks it up after that. And so we go, then you essentially have no risk on your fillings for the rest of your life.
Right.
And if you stay with that dentist and get yourself clean so they can check on it, if something was wrong, they saw a gray area, you'd be right back in there getting it addressed. Mm-hmm. So SCUBA is about that peace of mind that the dentists or orthos or people like that don't have to spend time on.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of this from an orthodontic perspective. And docs, I'm sure you guys are out there racking your brain around this too, but I'm looking at this. I can think of retention and just selling our patients on a retention program where we know that our insurance codes cover one retainer. But imagine if we can work with Scott's team to help us come up with a plan where we can upcharge for that retention program after the one. And maybe there's a way that we're going to get this as a way to get some tax write-offs for the programs or whatnot. That's the way I'm thinking about what you're saying here. Is that?
Let me even simplify a little. You're headed down the right path. So SCUBA is when they come. Let's take an orthodontist. I was visiting with a gentleman in California, runs about a $4 million practice, good size, been around a while. And he goes, a lot of my business is when somebody comes and does a new brace thing, their teeth shift, and 5, 6, 7 years later, they're back with me again. And I said, it's what we're doing in between there. It's on your system and what you're giving them and what care plan you're addressing in the short run.
Yep.
He goes, oh, then that doesn't mess with my long-term revenue, and it shores up my short-term revenue and endears them to me even more. Yep. And we said, absolutely, that's what we're designed to do. And the revenue, Jill, it's really simple. They just put it into their CRM. They bill it on the day that they're giving the service. So it's right there up front, super simple. We don't have a third-party system. We didn't make it complicated. And you know what our favorite part for our dental professionals is? It's 80-20. They keep 80% of the revenue. Nationally, if you were to go and nationally jump into a warranty program that maybe dealt with your specialty, you might get 5% at most. And your staff has to fill out a third-party system for them. And so if you really track that against time and cost, usually you lose money. Yeah. And so when we visited, all of our dentists said, hey, listen, inflation is killing us. And I can't raise my prices because insurance is set, right? Yep. And so how do I address this? And we said, what if we could change your take-home pay by 10 to 15%? Now, you and I both know that's a game changer. Yeah. That's a lot of revenue. If you're making $350, $400, and all of a sudden I'm going to give you another 15%, that changes the dynamic of your life for the next 10, 20 years. So that's what SCUBA was designed to do.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Gosh, we have covered a lot here, and I know we could just keep going, but I want to finish up with two things. Going all the way back to the beginning, this sounds too good to be true. And I think that probably a lot of doctors are maybe thinking that, wow, these guys really seem to know they're going to handle a lot of the heavy lifting. They're going to do this. There's got to be a catch here. What does this cost? How do I move forward with it? So I'm wondering if you can just address that a little bit for us, and then finish up with, if somebody just wants to do a discovery call with you, no matter where they're at, which stage of practice, maybe they've been in those groups that are like, yeah, don't do it. Yes, do it. And they're just like, okay, I just need to talk to somebody. What's going to be the best way for them to do that as well?
Yeah. So let's talk costs on SCUBA just real quick. SCUBA is easy. When we sign them up, it's $750 up front, and then we do $500 a month. We're expecting the dentist in the first 30 days to make no less than $2,500, that or above. So we want to be in the 80-20 scenario right off the bat. You'll usually have a low acceptance rate because we're training your staff. They're working through. It's a new program to them. So behind the scenes, it's none of your time. It's usually your office manager and us working together. We train your staff to get that acceptance rate around 70, 80%. And then at about the 6-month mark, we look at where that 80-20 rule is. So let's say at that point, you're making $5,000 in SCUBA payments a month to yourself. We'll adjust that 80-20, and then we do it about twice a year. Yeah. But you get a monthly report. It says what percentage of your clients are buying into your program, how much revenue is being generated. So if you're the dentist or ortho back there, you look at that and you go, oh, that was good. And then you set it aside and keep doing what you're doing. And we have our own learning management system. We have our own training platform. And if you have employee turnover, we just roll them right back through there. So it's never going to be, oh, I've got to train somebody again. Oh, I've got to address this. We take that. We're not free. Yeah. But we do take that burden off you, and you still get the lion's share of the revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, perfect. And if they wanted to get a hold of you and reach out, how are they going to be able to do that?
So our website is scuba-care.com. Super easy. Acquire tax credits is just that, ACQURA. So acquiretaxcredits.com. You can do that. You can call our office. You can call directly if you want to get in touch and set up something. You can call us 801-441-2824. I'll say that again, 801-441-2824. Or for this podcast, if you want to talk directly to me on this, you can text me 602-920-1900. Again, 602-920-1900. Super easy. You text that, we watch that, and just say, hey guys, I want to have an estimate. I want to discover. I want to learn a little bit more. We have only one rule. Please don't do something unless you're 100% comfortable. And people go, wait a minute. I literally, the other day, I could tell the CPA there, they're nervous. I said, guys, why don't you just not do it for now? And they go, what do you mean? I go, I don't think you're comfortable. I'm calling you out on my only one rule is I don't want you calling me the day after and saying, what the crap did I do?
Yep.
Take it a couple more days. Let's have another call. Let's visit with an attorney, a CPA. Let's get somebody else on there to help you make a good decision. SCUBA is easy. Hey,
Yep.
I can make money in my practice from day one.
Yep.
So most guys go, yeah, I don't need side advice. But if it's a tax credit one and you want that, guys, we have lots of wonderful resources available. Our goal is to give you great information, have you make an informed decision, and to not break our number one rule.
Yeah.
Because we would rather you not do it. We can put cheese on our hamburger, Jill. I know. So we don't need you to sign up. But we do want to get the people that say, hey, I really want to get the most out of my practice. I want to elevate. If all this is available to me, and I can add SCUBA and give peace of mind to my patients, if I can do tax credits to be rewarded for my hard work, the fact that I'm trying to stay on the cutting edge, I'm trying to grow, and somebody's going to come behind me and reward me for that is really those two programs. They're designed to help facilitate so that you can get an address, because everything's more expensive. Credit, eggs, guys, it's if you work out and you stay fit, eggs are expensive. It went from $2-3 to
Right.
$5-6.
Right. Oh,
So
yeah.
you need SCUBA just so you have that extra $3,000 in the next 30 days, so you can say, "Hey, I can pay for eggs,
Yeah.
and maybe you can get cheese on your hamburger too."
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much. This has been great. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of docs reaching out to you. Scott, the way I like to finish up Hey Docs is I always like to finish it up with the speed round. Are you ready for the speed round challenge?
Absolutely, Jill. I'm excited about this. I wasn't aware of this, so this is fun.
All right.
Should I do some jumping jacks or some
Yeah.
push-ups?
Do some stretching. Here we go. All right. What is one business trend you think more people should be paying attention to?
Customer service with peace of mind stuff. People want to feel safe when they're coming to you. I think that is becoming the biggest trend that we've seen the growth worldwide on the spend there. People go, if I do something with my dentist or my ortho or anybody, I want to know when I walk away, you're going to stand behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. What is the most unexpected lesson you've learned in your career so far?
That if you're willing to make less and do the right thing every time, people will stay with you forever.
Yeah.
The way our tax credit bills is we actually take, if you had 100,000 in credits, we actually work with your CPA. If you only got paid on 80 of it, guess what we bill on? 80. We only bill on what's going to come into your pocket. Nobody else in the country does that. And we feel like that's us getting in right with you and saying, we're with you. We're going to run this gauntlet with you. And we're not going to overcharge you just because we can or because whatever. We're going to actually say what helps you build your business. And when you get that 80 grand back, you're happy to give us our fee because it's such a win-win. We believe in that win-win concept. I think that's the best way to build a long-lasting company. And I know with your patients out there, if you're sitting there at the ortho, you go, absolutely, I want to create wins. Guys, SCUBA gives you that comfort. It's like putting a warm blanket around every one of your patients and saying, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you when it goes rough. I got you when your kid does something with their braces that the parents go, oh no, I got your back. It's an I got your back program. I love that part about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. All right. And the last one as we finish up here, if you had unlimited resources, what is one big idea you would bring to life?
Man, that is, everybody goes, if I was Miss America, I'd go world peace.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I think that allowing people to sweat it out and learn is the most valuable lesson we learn. Whatever I spend my time and my money on, I love. So I would find programs to do that. There's some groups I've done a little bit of work with. They take people internationally where they might be living on $5 a month, and they help these people start businesses. And people put money in to help them do that. And these people go from poverty to making enough money to live and eat and go. I love the American dream concept of you can be anything, do anything, and anything that supports that through people's hard work. I just think, Jill, that's how we grow. That's how we become better. And it gets you growing. And then all of a sudden you begin to reach out, and then you lift the person next to you. And that fun synergy that everybody talks about, The doing of it, I think, is inside there. So I had that kind of money. Absolutely. I would try to lift people through that. You don't give a man a fish, you teach him how to fish. And I think that isn't that such a
I love that.
fun way to do that. And I'm sure you're doing that with your consulting. You're saying, guys, I love you, but you got to fish.
Yep.
Let's not give it to you. Let's teach you how to fish. And we just support that with money.
Yeah.
Or they give you some money so you can fish in deeper holes.
Yeah.
More fun.
I love that. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on Hey Docs. And I just want to thank you for giving us some really good information. Like I said, I'm sure there are a lot of docs that are like, oh, I need to give them a call. I need to talk about
Come visit with us, guys.
Yeah.
Worst case, you have a great phone call with us and we tell you, hey, you don't qualify for some stuff, but some stuff you do.
Yep.
Best case scenario, everything lines up for you and it's a game changer for your profitability. And that really, don't you think that allows you to influence where if you're giving to good causes around you or helping your practice, gosh, if your office manager is listening to this, they got to say, hey, we got to get you in front of there because I want to raise.
Yeah.
Because if you have, wait a minute, if SCUBA is giving you us $5,000-$6,000 a month, can't you spread that around a little bit in the practice? And guys, we all know keeping good staff is a huge thing we try to do. So why not give yourself some money to address that? Because cost of living has gone up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Again,
fun.
Thank you so much. And I just appreciate everything. And I look forward to having you on again. Thank you.
Loved it. Thank you, Jill. You're a gem.
Thanks. We did it.